Kid and his mother trash my yard then try to call the cops on me.
I spent an hour and a half raking leaves for my daughter to play in. After I finished, I went inside and fed her lunch before I took her out to play. I go out into my backyard and there is a kid throwing the leaves all over my yard again. They told him to get out of my yard and go play on his own. He freaked out and his mom came over to yell at me. I told them both that they have their own yard and they can stay there. She freaked out and said her kid can play wherever he wants. Then proceeded to tell me she was going to call the cops on me. As she's walking away, she and her son decided to dump my garbage and recycling bins on their way out. I started cleaning up and the cops pulled up. I told them what happened. They told the mom she can clean up the mess or pay a fine. She decided to pay the fine and is now moving.
I'm a little bitch for picking my kid up.
So my kid goes to a private school. She's adopted a little white girl, and I am Asian. Well, there are some drop-off and pick-up procedures. At her school you have to be on the list to get past the gate, and have I'd pick up your kid, as well as be on a list of approved people for pickup. I had parked my car in the waiting area, and got out to go to the pickup door, and pick up my kid. Okay, well, unfortunately, there was an entitled parent behind me picking her kid up. The monitor didn't ask for my driver's license. She sees me every day. Well, the entitled parent had some words to say. She sees K walk out, and she yells at me that I can't pick someone's kid up without the list. She called the monitor out and screams at the woman that, oh, this woman is not approved for pickup. She even screamed at me I have no right to be on campus, that she's going to get security involved. Well, I just said, you know, adoption is a thing. Like, what's wrong with a mixed family? She called me a lying bitch. This woman was so shocked that, you know, mixed family is a thing. My kid just piped in and said, just leave my mom alone. I just don't understand people sometimes.
My neighbor knocks on my door and demands I watch her kids.
I live in an apartment building with a family next door. Cute kids, but I'm 24 and not looking to watch them. Several times now, the mother has knocked on my door with her kids and asked if they can come in while she runs errands. She's not a single mother and she's never offered to pay me. Last time I decided to grow a pair and say, sorry, not tonight, I have a lot of work to do. This woman peeks her head into my doorway and says, come on, you're just hanging out. I won't be long. Then says goodbye to her kids and is off before I can argue. At least pay me, Karen. I'm such a pushover that when I was at Target the other day I bought a board game for the next time it happens. My lease is up in a few months and this might be the reason I don't renew.
The entitled parent demands I speak English, then tells me to go back to my country.
For starters, both my parents were born in Yugoslavia, in what is now modern-day Serbia, and migrated to the US. Now my dad can speak English fine, but my mom has trouble speaking it, so my and dad use Serbian most of the time. Anyway, let's get on with it. I take the bus to school and of course, there are a lot of people who also take the bus. I get in, pay, then take my seat. About 2 stops later the bus stops at a train station, and then comes the entitled parent with the kid in one hand. They get on the bus and pay and take the 2 seats that were across from me. It was fine for the first few minutes, as nothing was going on. I decided to call my dad to tell him I was almost at school so that he knew, and like I said, my dad and I use Serbian most of the time, so we conversed in our language. Once the conversation finished, the entitled mother's kid tried to get my attention and the conversation went something like this.
Kid, what were you saying?
Me? I was just talking to my dad.
Kid, you talk funny.
Me? Oh, that's because we were speaking in our language. Entitled mom joins the conversation.
Entitled mother. Well, your language is not what we all speak around here. We speak English, and you will too.
Me? My family isn't from here, we are from Cutoff.
Entitled mother. I do not care where you are from, English is what we speak, so to speak it.
Me? I understand you speak English, but my family has a hard time speaking it, so I'd rather use our language so they can understand me. Besides, what we were talking about is of no use to you.
Entitled mother. Besides, why can't you damn Russians get the hint that your language is not what we want to hear you speak? If you cannot speak it, then just go back to Russia. We would do better without you commies all over our land.
Me? First of all, my family is Serbian. Second, we are not communists. And third, it's not a crime to speak another language.
Entitled Mother. This is America and we speak English, so do it or go back to your damn country.
At this point, I put my earbuds in and just let her go on. The bus was about at my stop, so I got up, and before I walked out of the bus, I looked at the lady and told her Ti velika kuko, which is Serbian for you big bitch. That face she gave me was priceless.
How dare you kick me out? I'm a naval commander's wife.
Shame on, I'm a naval commander's wife, new to the area and have found locals to be courteous and friendly, except the owner of this business, Rhonda. First, we spent almost $100 to get in. Then she refused to believe my 2-year-old wasn't age 4 and asked to see his birth certificate because we are a tall family. Her motivation for asking his age is that they require children age 4 and up to wear a mask at all times. When I explained that 5-year-old who has asthma has a medical exemption from wearing masks, she became confrontational and told me medical exemption be damned, wear the mask or get out. We had literally been indoors for less than 10 minutes, so knowing my child cannot have his breathing restricted by a mask, especially when running and playing, I requested a refund. I explained that regardless of our financial affluence, $91 for 10 min was ludicrous. Her response was, "Don't worry honey, the first will be here soon enough for you and your trailer trash husband to collect your welfare check." What in the actual hell? How can this Karen run a children's business? And one that does not recognize nor accommodate persons with disabilities? And when did military brass officers become trailer trash? After getting absolutely roasted in the comments, someone shared the business owner's side of the story. Rhonda. In the 6 years I have run a business, I have only asked customers to leave twice. The first time the person arguing with me backed down and complied with my request regarding our safety rules and policies. Yesterday though, I had a family of anti-maskers that repeatedly removed their masks, complained when we asked them to put them back on, and then eventually just blatantly refused while at the top of the play structure. My exasperated staff came to me and I went to the adults personally at the top and asked them to put on a mask or leave the play area. One guy just blatantly refused. I then said, "If you don't leave the play area to put on a face mask, I'll have to call the police to escort you off." I kid you not, he said go for it, and I did. They did not believe me and hurriedly got their shoes on while I was on the phone, so I cancelled my request, but before leaving the woman yelled at my staff for a good 5 minutes before I intervened. She continued to yell at me and call me various names for 15 minutes about disability and how horrible I was for ruining her family outing. I asked several times for her disability papers, which she never produced, but claimed she offered to show me. She never did. She wanted me to fix the situation and do the right thing, but never explained what she thought I was supposed to do to fix the fact they were assholes. I tell you what, not a single business enjoys enforcing mask mandates, just don't be an asshole.
Entitled Sister demands I take her children to Disney with me and my girlfriend despite knowing it's a secret proposal trip.
So I, 31F, and my girlfriend, 32F, are planning a trip to Disneyland Paris, not for anytime soon with the pandemic, but still planning. It's not as big as say Florida, but it's closer to us. It's also both our first time going, and as my girlfriend is obsessed with Disney, it's where I'm planning to propose to her to make it more special. My sister knows I'm proposing as she helped me pick out the ring, and she was very supportive until she found out where I was planning to propose. She doesn't approve of it as we're not kids, and has stated that as we're not children it's weird, and how if I wanted to go there I should take her kids who are 10 and 6. I love my niece and nephew, but this is a special trip for me and my girlfriend. I explained this to my sister and I thought she understood, but next time I was overseeing her kids, they were upset, as she had told them about the Disney trip, and they couldn't understand why I wouldn't take them. I tried to console them, but I felt very put on the spot and upset by this. I ended up leaving not long after, and my sister keeps badgering me to take the kids now as they are so upset. The worst part is my girlfriend is starting to feel guilty and wondering if we should just take the kids with us.
My mom wants to use my scholarship money for herself.
So I'm 20 years old and I'm currently in university and living in a dorm. A little background story, My mum and my dad are divorced and are not on good terms with each other. My mum has also been abusive both emotionally and sometimes physically for about 10 years with me and my sister. I'm still in contact with her but in a very formal and distant way. My relationship with my dad is really good. So basically what happened is that ever since the school year started back in September, my mother has been pestering me about getting a receipt and an invoice from the dorm I'm staying at so she could ask for a scholarship or something like that. This whole time I've constantly refused and excused it as me forgetting and shit like that when in reality I just didn't want to get it for her. Come the last week of October, I'm visiting my dad for the weekend. My parents live one in each side of the country and my uni is close to my dad's place, and my mum texts me again to tell me that she still doesn't have the invoice and that she desperately needed for the scholarship. After 2 months of her pestering me, I take the chance and bring up the issue to my dad since he's the one paying for everything. Keep in mind that my mother made my dad pay for both me and my sister's college and residence because, according to her, she doesn't have any money to afford it. She does have the money, she just rather spend it on clothes or shoes and go out to restaurants acting as if she was rich. Obviously, my dad tells me to text my mother back and tell her that I cannot give her the papers she wants because my dad has to give his consent, which is a huge obstacle for her since she avoids talking to my dad as much as she can. Ever since I texted her that message she went completely quiet. No calls and no texts, which were kind of weird, but I didn't question it since I don't like talking to my mother anyways. Fast forward to this week, my mum calls me and she starts telling me how she ended up calling my dorm reception and asking for the papers herself. I was of course annoyed at this point cause I honestly should have seen it coming but didn't do anything, hoping it wouldn't come down to that situation. So when my mum told me that they did email her the papers, I was furious. I contacted my dad and he was also furious because, first of all, my mum is not present in any of the papers signed by me and my dad, therefore who was to say that this woman was actually my mum, and second, because they gave her the papers without asking for me or my dad's consent, which is a huge violation of our privacy. I've already talked to my dorm director and they profusely apologized and told me they would take it into account next time my mum decides to call if she does. I'm still pissed though because now that my mother has those papers she can ask for that scholarship, and if they end up granting it to her then she's going to be given money every month that is supposed to be to pay off my tuition. Tuition she isn't even paying. The worst part is that I know 100% for sure I'm not going to be seeing that money at all and that she's going to be spending it on clothes or other things that are not a basic necessity, like for example me being able to buy food. Like, how entitled do you have to be to ask for a scholarship on tuition you're not even paying for just so you can spend it on yourself? Edit. So I have read all of the comments below. I'm sorry I didn't answer too many as I feel quite overwhelmed. I guess it must have been important to mention that student dorms aren't connected to the university where I live. Even if I brought it up to the university they wouldn't be able to do much as it involves the dorm only. About the scholarship, I'm really hoping it gets denied, and if it does go through then I'll be demanding my mother that money since if anything, it belongs to my dad. If she refuses then I will most definitely talk to my dad and take more serious actions because I am sure as hell not going to let my mother keep money that doesn't belong to her. My dad has already stated his displeasure towards the dorm director but has decided not to sue since he doesn't want to go through that hassle. He most definitely gave them an earful though. Also, to those who told me to go no contact with my mum, I really want to, but it's still a hard step to take even with the amount of shit she pulled throughout the years. Oh, and I'm from Spain. It was funny seeing some of you guess my country, lol. Edit 2. I think, I've been reading more comments on how the money should be going to my account and I believe it's my fault for not explaining. The scholarship is actually one that is requested with my name towards the parent. The scholarship is basically a financial help towards the parent, therefore it is right for the money to be transferred to the parent and not me since they're the ones paying. The issue here is that the money would be transferred to a parent, my mother, who is not paying tuition at all. So basically in the eyes of the scholarship, my mum is technically paying for my tuition when in reality she isn't. But she's taking advantage of the fact that the scholarship doesn't know that to ask for money.